Hey, can we all stand for the pledge, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Clerk Pro Tem, would you please call the roll for me?
Okay. Trustee Wilkin,
Here.
Trustee McElwain, Trustee Altonsi,
Yes.
Trustee Owendahl,
Here.
Supervisor Sellers.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We have a quorum. All right. The first order of business is approval of minutes for the June 16th, 2025 meeting. And a motion and a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Wilson, second by Moody. Please take a look at the minutes if you guys haven't done so already. Any questions on the minutes, trustees? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next order of business is approval of bills payable, and a motion and a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Wilson, second by Owendahl. Please take a look at the bills payable.
Supervisor Sellers?
Yes.
I didn't get a copy in my packet.
Bills payable?
Yeah. I've seen it already, but, okay, thank you.
Same here.
Did you have it?
Same thing. I've seen it.
You can get a copy of bills payable?
In your packet there?
What's this is the one? No, that's the old one.
I can make it custom.
Wait a minute, I'll just.
I've seen it, so it's.
Yeah,
it's
I've
fine.
seen it.
Here you go, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions on the bills payable, trustees?
Have none.
Yep.
Trustee Alton, any questions on bills payable?
No.
Okay. Clerk Pro Tem, please call the roll.
Sure. Trustee Wilkin,
Aye.
Trustee Altonsi,
Aye.
Trustee Owendahl,
Aye.
Supervisor Sellers.
Aye. Motion carries. The next order of business is the presentation of the audit from Venning Group. I will need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Owendahl, second by.
What's the motion?
Motion to, yes?
To receive the audit.
Receive and place on file, but they haven't presented it yet.
Yeah, we're gonna, it's a presentation,
Right, okay.
so you gotta present it tonight. We have a motion and a second, right?
Right.
Is it open for him to present, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Good?
Yes.
All right. My name is Kyle Demas. I'm a CPA with Venning Group here in Freeport. We've been doing the audit for, gosh, how long now, Patrick? Got to be getting close to a decade almost
That's close
at
to
this
it.
point.
Yeah.
So I've been working with Patrick and Liz for quite a while on the audit here. We just finished up here a few weeks ago. We met last Tuesday, I think it
Yes.
was. Patrick and Liz came over to our office and we met and went through things in detail, and then I'll give you the high-level summary today. So in front of you, you've got two separate packets, one smaller stapled copy and then a thicker bound with a nice plastic ring on it. The smaller of the two there stapled together, that's our management letter. As auditors, this is a required communication from us to you as the board. If there were any disagreements with management or significant difficulties in conducting the audit, they would be detailed in this letter. There are neither reported here. The audit continues to go well. Liz is fantastic to work with. I don't know if you can tell anybody here that. She's tremendous. The integration with clerk books here a few years ago has made our lives significantly easier, and I know it has Liz's as well. So there are a few residual things that we're going to work on cleaning up with her here after the audit is concluded, but nothing that really gives any issues as far as the audit is concerned. On the back page of that smaller stapled copy there is one comment that we consider to be a significant deficiency in internal control. While that sounds scary, it's really just a formality that Liz, in her capacity, has the responsibility in pretty much the entire area of the financial reporting. So when you've got limited people on staff, you have a natural lack of segregation of duties. We recognize that there are controls in place to double check and review. Your involvement to review the bills payable, for example, is one of those things. We don't have any concerns about the dynamic that Liz has, but in our world, if this dynamic exists, we're required to put it in our letter. So you and most other small municipalities that we audit have the same comment there. Mike's shaking his head because I'm sure he's heard this before. He's heard it from me at least here every year that I've been coming. So no real concerns about the dynamic there, as long as the mitigating controls continue to stay in place like they are. The thicker packet there then, our official audit report. If you get past the first couple pages on the table of contents, the letter there on our letterhead, which is technically page 1, the heading says Independent Auditor's Report. We are required to give our opinion on your financial statements. And we give an opinion, it's called unmodified, which means it was clean, that the financial statements are fairly presented. So we can't audit every penny, but within our threshold of materiality, everything is fairly stated. So if you get past that, there are a couple consolidated financial statements on page 4 and 5. So what I mean by that is we're required to, in our reporting, take all of your funds and consolidate them all together. So I'm going to skip past pages 4 and 5 and get to page 6 and page 7. That'll be a little bit more familiar with what you're used to seeing with the general fund separated from general assistance and insurance fund and so on and so forth. If you look at the bottom of page 7, so 3 lines from the bottom on page 7, this is going to be the net surplus or deficit for the fiscal year that ended April 30th of 2025. So in the general fund, there was over a $60,000 surplus. The general assistance fund ran a deficit of right around $32,000. The insurance fund was a $16,000 surplus, and then the rest of the funds are combined together in that column headed other governmental funds. They operated $51,000 to the positive. So overall, right around $100,000 surplus for the year. There's detail at the back that compares the budget to actual in the general assistance fund. So even though you operated at a $32,000 deficit, that was about $300,000 better than what the budget had projected. So an intentional budgeted deficit there, and it operated far better than what was planned. So overall, I could give Patrick one number from this entire report and he would be happy. $100,000 surplus for the year across all funds. Any questions on that before I move forward? Okay. After that, starting on page 9, there is several pages of narrative footnotes that further describe items within the financial statements. One that I'm going to call specific attention to is on the top of page 17. This is a footnote that details what's considered to be restricted net position. So within your funds, there are tax levies and other revenues that are restricted for specific purposes. We are required to show those funds as such. So your restricted net position, general assistance fund, insurance, IMRF, FICA, audit, on down the line, you can see where those individual balances, where those reserves were at the end of April. Any questions on that? The general fund, pardon me, not the general assistance fund, the general fund is considered unrestricted. After that, there's a few more pages of footnotes. nothing that I'm gonna call specific attention to. Starting on page 25 is that budget to actual presentation I was referring to. I'm not gonna go into any of the details, I just want you to be aware that that exists. So we're required to show budget to actual presentation there for any fund that we determine to be major. I'm not gonna bore you with that calculation and the reasoning, but the general fund, the general assistance fund, and the insurance fund all fall into that classification, and that's why there's budget to actual schedules there for those. Behind there is a few schedules related to your IMRF, and then at the back, there's 4 pages of combining financial statements. So when I referred to at the very beginning that there were a handful of funds lumped together, this breaks that out so you can see the detail there. Overall, another strong year financially, another smooth year, even more so improved than it's been the last few as far as the audit process on our end. So we very much appreciate Liz and Patrick and you all, and the investment. I know it was a large dollar investment into clerk books. That was money very well spent. So I'll continue to reiterate that because I think it's that important. Any questions on any of that?
No, actually, you just answered the question I was going to have was, is the QuickBooks change still making life easier? Sounds like
Yeah.
that's a yes, so.
The problem that we may run into here in the future is that QuickBooks as a company is discontinuing some of their
Of
software
course.
packages.
Of course.
They're moving primarily to online, like most vendors are.
Yeah.
And they still offer a desktop version housed locally on your computer that integrates with QuickBooks.
Right.
If you were ever forced to go completely online and
Mhm.
you lose that integration, you'd have to explore some other options. But
Right.
for the time being, everything is, operating very nicely.
So if they do, if they do force everything going online, how does that work security information wise? Is our information more at risk if everything is totally online, or are there enough parameters in place?
Yeah, those companies QuickBooks Intuit is a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
So their security measures are, it's kind of like e-filing your tax
Mhm.
return.
Yeah.
There's some people still want to paper file their tax
Yeah.
return. Well, you're sending your social security number and your address in the mail that anybody
Mhm.
could grab.
Right.
Filing electronically through the proper means is
Right.
actually more secure. Yep.
All right.
Yep, no concerns whatsoever from my
Okay.
end. Yeah.
All right.
Good question, Ted.
Yeah, when we have a year, and it sounded like this past year is probably an example, where the anticipated expenditures are higher than the new revenues, so we're going to be dipping into surplus. How does that show up on here as far as we don't show or do we somehow show a carryover balance somewhere?
Yeah, so when I was talking about the restricted net position, so any prior year revenues that are unspent, which is where your accumulated balances come from,
Mhm.
any of those show in your fund balance reserves. So if you look, let's go to page 7 again as a good example there. So at the bottom of page 7, I was referencing 3 lines from the bottom shows what the surplus or deficit was for the year. If you look at the very bottom line, so fund balance end of year, in the general fund, you've got 883,000 of accumulated reserves over numerous years back. In the general assistance fund, you've got over $1 million, almost 1.1 million. So even though you spent 32,000 as a deficit, there's plenty of reserve there to last an awful long time at that rate. So those are the reserves that exist and carry forward into future fiscal years.
And does that show up on the budget side also? Is there a
On the budget
line?
side, so if you look, then let's flip, so let's just keep in the general assistance fund. General assistance fund starts on page 28, the budget to actual presentation. So page 28 and 29, if you look at the bottom of page 29, make sure everyone a chance to get there. The first 2 columns on that sheet represent your budget. So there's an original budget. If there were any amendments to it, the second column would represent the amended budget. The third column there then is actual results, and the column all the way on the right is plus or minus how you operated compared to that. So at the bottom of those first two columns that represent the budget, we don't show a beginning and ending fund balance. If we started here, if we expended this, this is where we land. We don't show that in the presentation here. It's just not standard, it's not required. Only the actual column shows what those ending reserves are, because that's what you actually have. So when you were to generate next year's budget, you would have to take that projection and say, okay, what are the reserves we're carrying over, to then see where would that land us at the end of the year. Nothing in here is going to give you that direct information.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions? Trustees? Okay, well, I will,
Oh, no, I said, nope, I'm good.
well, we will do a voice vote to receive and place the audit on file. Okay, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so very much, Pat.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
The next order of business is the supervisor's report. I'm thinking that our concerns are going to be realized here pretty soon with the potential passing of the big, beautiful bill. Potential noise, yeah, it's going to pass. So it has passed. Has it signed already?
It's been signed.
He signed it. So he
It's
signed it. So
official,
it
yeah.
passed. Which puts us in a situation. And we are going to be glad that we have those reserves. Because our phones have been ringing off the hook already, and we also have to look at potentially having to provide some sort of medical insurance for our clients that are on our caseload. We had it before. It was called Mackey. It was a medical some term for it. I'm going to give them a call and see what their prices are, and we may have to start having it again for our clients, because what we don't want to have happen is for a client to be on township assistance, have a massive heart attack, and go to the hospital, and that falls on us for that medical bill. So we need to look into Mackey and how their prices are, and see how we can make that happen for the township and for our clients. So we may incur a huge expense with that. I'm going to see if there's any way possible that if we can talk to the other townships in our county, if we can't get a group rate to kind of offset the cost. Probably not going to happen, but it's worth a try. So once I get the information, I will bring it back to the board, and you guys take a look at it, and then we'll take it from there. Okay.
Chatter I've been seeing online, again, I don't know how accurate the information is, but it seems like the most painful parts are being, like, they're in the bill, they're delayed. So even though it's officially passed, they won't take effect until like the end of the year or early 2026.
That gives us,
So that might give us some more time.
Good.
So just, I mean, you may want to check on and see
Okay.
if how official that is.
okay.
But I have been seeing that chatter online. Again, don't know how true it is.
That is correct. There's
is
large
correct,
parts that are
okay.
deferred until after the midterm
Yeah.
elections.
Midterm
Correct,
elections, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so we might get, so
And
yeah.
others are delayed until after Trump leaves office.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay,
So we may have some
we may have some time.
time. Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna do my research and do my
Oh,
homework on it.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
that we won't get caught, behind the eight
Oh,
ball.
yeah.
And so, yeah.
All right.
All right, with that being said, I don't think I have too much more. Next order of business is the assessor's report.
And nothing new to report, but if anybody has questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Okay.
Okay. The next order of business is trustees report. Trustees.
I have one item, just people may be aware of. The NAACP has a housing working group, which they've gathered together support from a number of entities. And I think it would be good for the township to be represented and active at that those conversations. I'm not sure who would best be involved in that, but I think it would be good that the township be there.
Okay.
They have three focus areas, and they're asking people who are interested in supporting it to identify which focus area they would want to be involved in. It's housing improvement, housing expansion, and education.
Improvement, expansion.
And I'm thinking in the education area, I don't know that much about it, but my impression is the township has done a number of things for education, and so there may be some ready-made helpful items to bring to the table.
Yeah, we have quite a, we've already done our, our smart renters program, our red flag safe housing initiative program. We have quite a few different housing initiatives that we've established. So, okay, excellent. All right, trustees, anything else?
Yeah, question. If I remember correctly, Cub Foods is the only store in town that accepts our vouchers, right?
Yep.
Do we have a plan B in place in case Cubs Foods decides at any point to say we're not doing them anymore?
You want to know something? We've been trying to establish a plan B for the last couple of years. We haven't established one yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
just thought about that today when I was looking at
Yeah.
the
because
the expenditures. I'm like, what happened?
actually
Say no.
Cubs was our plan B when Sable left.
Okay.
They picked up the slack for us. So I don't know who else would be, but I mean, we send out letters all the time to different, they will accept, and some come back and say no, they don't accept the voucher system. So we can try it again. Maybe they've changed their mind. So
Do they think it's just too much work, or do they not even analyze it?
well, just like any other business, they want their money right now. They don't want to wait until 2 weeks until we vote to approve their funds. So, and some systems just aren't set up to accept vouchers. I know the new laundry place. I'm not switching industries, but they stopped accepting our vouchers because their system is set up to accept vouchers.
Okay.
So some places not set up to accept vouchers, but Cub Foods was set up to accept vouchers. So I'm hoping that some other place would be willing to.
And they haven't said that they're not given any kind of like inkling or
no, they're glad.
that they're happy
Yeah,
and
they're
they're
happy.
satisfied, and
They're happy.
well, that's good.
But it would be good to have
That a safety net.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we'll send letters out again, and we'll put our hooks in the water.
Or maybe even have to, or maybe even just briefly just thinking about, is there a way to something to accomplish it in a way other than vouchers if needed? I mean, I don't know. Just don't.
One thing.
No need to get too deep into it because we're not there yet. But
one thing we dabbled with one time, talked about doing, was gift cards, and that idea went out the window real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing about a gift card,
It could be used for anything.
and it can be used by anybody. These vouchers have our stamp on them to where you can't copy them, and so that's the easiest way for us. Yeah.
All right. Just a thought. I was looking at the
Yeah.
bills payable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as things, steady go,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to keep a close eye on all of these things. So, yes, that's a great idea. I'm glad you brought it up because we do need to look at other alternatives in case that one dries up.
Right.
I would think that even like those, like the credit card, the debit card, like they have through the state, the state of Illinois has those for services, like through doors. There used to be something like that where they would load it up, and that was all they had. Kind of like this, kind of like the public aid, like the card. But I would think that would be very costly for us to do something like that.
It may be very costly, yes, and it could be to where, well, you give me $100 cash, and I'll give you my 250.
Right?
Exactly.
And there was frauding going on too, so that issue with fraud is rampant, yeah, so I could see where that would be a problem.
And so, yeah, with our vouchers, they verify the person and they verify that the voucher is legitimate because it has our stamp.
That stamp
raised,
on it, like a raised
symbol.
seal.
Yes, a
Okay.
seal on it. So that's the safest way for us right now, I think. As things progress, we may look at other alternatives. If we can come with some other alternatives, we can definitely explore those options.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, trustees? Anything? No? Okay.
No.
Next will be is public comments. Any public comments? Yes.
Yeah. I'm Steve Carroll. If you've been following in the last month some interesting things around Freeport, the weapons that the police department has been seizing. This isn't within the last month. And everywhere from Indian Springs Court to Cottonwood. And the amount of these weapons is surprising, but what is even more surprising is what they are. Beyond legal, high capacity, semi-auto with conversion kits for full auto. And I'm telling you, this is just a snapshot of what might really be out there, tip of the iceberg. And I don't know I don't have any answers, and except for the police department to keep going on it. I'm not so sure that what transpired this past weekend with the marches is the answer. That has more questions than answers. So let's all be real careful here.
Shane Orlow. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Carroll just said. There's also a rampant drug problem in this area as well. I follow pretty closely with the county crime page and all of that, and cannabis, cocaine, all of it is just in our community. And it leads to probably some of the issues that Mr. Carroll is talking about. On top of that, we have domestic battery, which is a huge issue within our community. And again, to piggyback, I'm not sure that cleaning up a church parking lot or any of that is solving the problem. We need to get down to it and find solutions to the real issues that are here. I don't have the solution, but I hope that you guys, and with collaboration with maybe some of us, we can maybe find it. The other thing is, Mr. Sellers, you touched on the reduction in, how the big beautiful bill and all of that stuff is going to be a thing. I would love to see you guys keep us updated on what's going to be coming, going, because I think that some of our community really relies on the things that might be going. And I think that you know that, Mr. Sellers. But I think that when you guys sit down, or just send out a post on social media, do something that tells us what's coming, going, so that we're aware as a community as to what is happening. We don't want to be blindsided, 2 weeks later when the next township meeting is, and then all of a sudden we have people that just are they're just out of luck, So thank you guys for everything you do. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments? Any other business coming before the town? Seeing that there is none, I entertain a motion to adjourn until Monday, July 21st, 2025 at 4:30 p.m.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All righty, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you all.